So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, the lad and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you.
Right. So I was intrigued, initially when I saw this passage, because it's not just Isaac and his father going to sacrifice. There's also 2 other young men with him. And I wonder, where they came from. Were they servants?
That's what I assumed.
Right? Because Hagar was not his only servant.
Right.
So they must have been other servants of the household. And I had a natural curiosity as to, whether or not they had a good or a negative relationship with Isaac.
Oh, okay.
Meaning, as we're about to find out, when Isaac is bound and nearly sacrificed, I'm curious how this would have been interpreted through the eyes of the servant boys who grew up in the household.
It says, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. So I don't know if they were able to see him or not.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Whether or not the 2 young men with them were able to observe what was happening.
Yeah. I mean, if, I was told I'd have to sacrifice my child.
Right.
I probably wouldn't want anybody else to watch.
Yeah, that's a really good point. From the viewpoint of the 2 servants, Abraham walks off to make a sacrifice with his son. Mm-hmm. This is probably just another day for them. Yeah. They probably have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe that.
They're just there doing their job, tending to the donkey while they go yonder.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting that the English translation says worship.
Why?
Well, because it's such a vague word, because worship seems to be an odd phrase for what's about to happen.
Well, not so odd if he's purposely trying to conceal his true motives.
Oh, that is an interesting thought. Because okay. First of all, if you're going to make a sacrifice and you have no sacrifice, the only thing you have with you is your son.
Right.
You wouldn't say, "Hey, I want to go make a sacrifice."
Right.
Because now you're maybe giving it up. Mm-hmm. You would have to say, well, we're going to go do a thing. We're going to go worship. Or the word they used here, which always gets translated worship, wanishtawa, is basically to bow down.
Okay.
And so translating it as worship is fine. It's still vague, but it's a fine translation. Nevertheless, you certainly wouldn't say, hey, we're going to go make a sacrifice, me and my only son with no ram or animal with me.
And I mean, I think Abraham is no stranger to twisting the truth, right?
He does have a history of that, right? Oh, she's my sister.
Sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, from a technical standpoint, sure, I guess she's your sister. But nevertheless, your point is very well taken. He does have a tendency to, you know what? Now that you bring it up, Abraham seems to have some level of rhetorical skill throughout the narrative. First, he convinces Sarah and others that, oh, well, she's literally just my sister. So he's like, I'm not lying. I'm just using words to my advantage. Mm-hmm. And then he talks God down from, well, maybe if I can find 50 righteous, or maybe 10, so he's able to whittle God down there. Mm-hmm. And now we see here he's going to sacrifice his own son. He's like, we're just going to go worship. Wink. You know what I mean?
So you're saying he's very eloquent.
Yeah, it seems like maybe he uses words very well to his advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that.
I keep seeing that's one trend I can pick up on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, anything else on this passage before we move into the sacrifice?
Yeah. I mean, I know we're saying he's twisting his words to his advantage, but he did say that they both would return.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
right at the end.
Either he knew he wasn't actually going to kill his son, which seems less likely.
Right.
Or he just knew he better say that. We're going to go worship and then I will be back.
Right. Well, that was always, when I was in Catholic school, that was always the point of discussion, was that the fact that he planned to worship with his son, and he said that he would be back, and the fact that he went without an animal for the offering, but he told his son God will provide the offering, which I don't know if we read that part yet.
I don't think so.
But nevertheless,